Hello and welcome to Penn Vicarage on this Tuesday. Hope you're well and cheerful and looking forward to a good day today. Just to remind you, please do put in your diaries Sunday the 6th of December. Carol singing on the doorstep should be really good. Do please let your friends know about it. We'll put it on Facebook in the next few days as well. But do come and join us for singing on the carols on the doorstep then. Some Christmas cheer in the midst of all that's happening at the moment. Right, again, we continue our adventure through the book of Revelation, and we're nearly halfway through. Right, where have we got to so far? Just to remind you, the usual morning recap. Chapter 1, introduction. Chapter 2, we have letters written by Jesus, or Jesus through John to various churches in Western Turkey. That's chapters 2 and 3. Chapter 4, we have this amazing vision of God presiding over his creation. Chapter 5, we have the scroll of God, which is with the 7 seals on it, and we find out that Jesus is worthy to open the seals. Chapter 6 and 7, we have the seals being opened and the scroll being opened, and right at the end of that, there's like a half-hour break. Then there's 7 trumpets are sound, and in chapter 8 we had the first 4 trumpets. Chapter 9 we have trumpet 5 and the first bit of trumpet 6. And today in chapter 10, we've got the middle bit of trumpet 6. Hope that makes sense to you. Here goes, without further ado, Revelation chapter 10. And I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven, wrapped in a cloud with a rainbow over his head. His face was like the sun, and his legs like pillars of fire. He held a little scroll open in his hand. Setting his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land, he gave a great shout like a lion roaring. And when he shouted, the 7 thunders sounded. And when the 7 thunders had sounded, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven saying, "Seal up what the 7 thunders have said, and don't write it down." Then the angel whom I saw standing on the sea and the land raised his right armed hand to heaven and swore by him who lives for ever and ever, who created heaven and what's in it, the earth and what's in it, and the sea and what's in it. There'll be no more delay. But in the days of the 7th angel who's about to blow his trumpet, the mystery of God will be fulfilled, as he announced to his servants the prophets. And the voice that I'd heard from heaven spoke to me again, saying, "Go, take the scroll that's open in the hand of the angel who's standing on the sea and on the land." So I went to the angel and told him to give me the little scroll. And he said to me, "Take it and eat it. It will be bitter to your stomach, but it will be as sweet as honey in your mouth." So I took the little scroll from the hand of the angel and ate it. It was as sweet as honey in my mouth, but when I'd eaten it, my stomach was made bitter. And they said to me, "You must prophesy again about many peoples and nations and languages and kings." And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Right, so we're in the middle of the 6th trumpet. What's this chapter 10 about this morning? One of my favourite books in the Bible is the book of Job in the Old Testament. I don't know if you know Job or not. It's a fascinating read, but you have to get into it. What you've got in Job is a righteous man called Job, or it's spelled Job, it's pronounced Job. And Job, as I say, was a righteous man. And yet, for some reason that he doesn't know about, he loses everything. He loses his farm, he loses his livestock, he loses his business, he loses his house, he loses his children, his wife gives up on him, he loses his health, and he ends up sitting on an ash heap, scraping his sores with bits of pot. And then his friends come, that's where the name Job's comforters come from, and they start off fine, but after a while they start telling Job, "Well, you must have done something really terrible to deserve this," and Job says, "I didn't." And they said, "But nothing bad happens to him, and therefore you must have done something really awful for this terrible thing to happen to you." And in Job chapter 19, I'm not quite sure whether Job gets sick of it or exasperation or what, but Job comes out with these wonderful verses, wonderful words, which are quoted in Handel's Messiah. "I know that my Redeemer lives." In other words, I know that one who is going to vindicate me lives, and he will stand on the earth. In other words, I will one day be proven right. Justice will prevail. I will one day proven right on this earth. In other words, justice will prevail, come through in the end. And I think actually it's the same feeling you get really today when you hear stories of victims of physical or assault, violent assault, or the victims of racial prejudice throughout the years, or the cry of somebody who's been scammed of all their life savings by some telephone scammer. People cry out and they demand justice. They want justice. And the same is true for the Christians who, because they believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, because they believe in the truth, they're all being persecuted, they're all being given a hard time. And it's worth remembering that today Christians are known to be, might not always feel like it in the UK, but Christians are the most persecuted group in the world. And we cry out for justice. We cry for God to help us. And I believe what this morning's reading about in Revelation chapter 10 is God's response to that. We have this angel who appears. And right at the very beginning of this, we hear about God's faithfulness. So, you hear about the rainbow, which is God's faithfulness to Noah. You know, you've been through this flood. I will never do it again. God's faithfulness there. You hear about the fire. Again, people of Israel, people of God, going across the desert. They were led by a pillar of fire. God was with them. He was being faithful to them. When you get the smoke, you've got Mount Sinai. You've got God appearing, being shielded by smoke. And you got and so you got the presence of God, and God giving them the 10 commandments in God's faithfulness. And I think that's what the little scroll is about, because they had 10 commandments that came down, but they were carried around in a little scroll. So you've got right at the beginning of this, you've got God's incredible faithfulness shown to Noah in the rainbow, shown to the people of God in the fire that led them through the desert, and shown to Moses with the little scroll and in the smoke. You've got enormous signs here of God's faithfulness. And God says, because I'm faithful to you, I will act in judgment. I will sort all this out. So you get the angel who's to be found in Daniel and chapter 9. That's what the little angel is. And you get the lion roaring, which you hear about in Amos, in Hosea, in Jeremiah, and in Joel. The roaring lion is the sign of God's judgment. God is coming to sort it out. And he's saying to his people here, because I love you and because I'm faithful to you, that's the reason I'm going to come in judgment. You can, like Job, you can know that your Redeemer lives, because I am God, I am faithful. And because I'm faithful, I will judge it. I will show you my judgment, and I will sort out rights from wrong, and you will get justice. And that's what it's about this morning. It's about saying God is just. But more to it than that. They say, don't they, that justice delayed is justice denied. And God's people cry out, how long, O Lord? Like the person demanding justice today might say, how long, O Lord? Well, it's a bit clever to see, but there are 4 sets of 7 in the book of Revelation. There are 7 scrolls. There are 7 trumpets. There are 7 thunders, and later there are 7 bowls. Now it's interesting, it's like one great big countdown. With the seals, you get groups of 4 horsemen, and that's all. With the trumpets, you get 3s. With the thunders, and later on you get 2s, and later on you're working days to make a big countdown for the big one. But notice, with the 7 seals, you hear about it in gory detail. With the trumpets, you hear about it in gory detail. With the thunders, it's a bit like he moves it on quickly. It's a bit like he goes fast forward. Because what God is saying is, I've heard my people. I want no more delay. I want justice for my people, and I want it now, which is why he skips it on quickly. So what you've got in today's reading is you've got a tremendous sense of God's faithfulness. And God says to his people, I know what you're going through. I'm faithful to you. And because I'm faithful to you, I will give you justice, and I will give it to you very, very soon.